Hi, welcome. We have attendees joining right now. Welcome, everyone. You're in the right space. Welcome to Caldera's AiR Share. We'll get started in just a minute. Thanks for being here.
Hi, B-Rad. Hi, Smalls. Hi, Milo. Hi, Jojo. Risa, is that you? Hello, everyone. As folks are coming in and settling in, just wanted to point y'all to the Q&A function down below, where you can ask questions throughout our time together tonight. We encourage questions. We love the conversation. We love being able to provide you with answers. And yeah, please feel free to use the Q&A at any time. We'll also have some time afterwards if there are some more sort of general questions if they're not specific to any one artist. So if you have some of those too, please feel free to drop them in. We have a couple of AiR alum on the call too. Welcome, y'all. Madeline, feel free to let me know when you want me to get started.
Looks like we have just a few more folks dropping in.
Awesome.
Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Stephanie, take it away.
Woohoo, party time. All right. So welcome everybody to tonight's AiR Share program, the second of two virtual events that we held, featuring Caldera's 2021 Artists in Residence. If you missed our first session, don't worry, it's on YouTube. So visit our YouTube channel to watch it after this one or sometime this weekend. It was a really, really great time, and I'm excited to get into tonight's event. So first things first, my name is Stephanie, aka Pearl. I am Caldera's Development and Communications Director. And it's great to see some of you on this call, some familiar names and some new ones. So thank you so much for being with us here tonight. Before we get into any of our programming, I'd like to share Caldera's land acknowledgement. Oops, I forgot I'm also running the slideshow. All right, so we honor the enduring relationship that exists between Indigenous peoples and their traditional territories. We recognize that we are on the original lands of several tribal groups. This acknowledgement is a first step in contributing to more awareness of the presence and resilience of Native peoples. Thank you. And because we're tuning in from sort of all over, please feel free to visit native-land.ca to find out more about the land that you occupy. Thank you so much for being here with us. And hello to everyone new and seasoned Caldera community. A little bit about our organization. We're a 25-year-old nonprofit, operating both in Portland and Central Oregon. We partner with youth and artists to foster connection, uplift voices, and inspire creativity. We do this through mentorships, workshops, intensives, and a summer camp, all programming for middle school and high school aged youth, as well as residencies for adult artists. We do all of these things because we believe that creativity helps us grow and tackle our most challenging issues. Tonight specifically, we're going to be highlighting Caldera's Residency Program, and one of our 3 residency programs, our Artist in Residence Program, which takes place annually at our Art Center on Blue Lake, just outside of Sisters, Oregon. So as you can see, these beautiful A-frames, these are where our residents get to stay. Caldera's residency supports our organizational belief in the transformative power of creativity. We believe and know that artists are powerful change makers, yet too many are held back by unjust systems of power and inequitable resource distribution. Caldera prioritizes serving artists who have been most impacted by injustice and oppression, with a focus on artists of color. Our residencies are important to artists because they provide essential, often difficult to access support to those who have found residencies unwelcoming or inaccessible in the past, and who wouldn't want to stay in one of these beautiful A-frame buildings. So, we provide a space like this and also studios for artists to create, connect, and even heal within a community that centers their needs and experiences. This is our hearth building where we can build giant fires and be in community with one another. So if you're interested in learning more, please feel free to contact us and sign up for our newsletter. Our 2022 AiR application is actually up on the website right now, so please visit our website and apply if you're interested. It is open now through June 25th. So the website for that is calderaarts.org/AiR, AIR. The application is there. Learn more about our other programs, and if you're able, of course, contribute in whatever way is meaningful to you, whether that is sharing our story, donating, or just being in community with us like you are here tonight. So a little bit more about the AiR program itself, AiR Artists in Residence. So it provides time and space for artists in all disciplines, 2 to 3 weeks during the winter months. Caldera's AiR program includes a stipend, studio, and living space, and provides accommodations for families. Again, if you are interested and want more information, please feel free to contact AIR at calderaarts.org. And now, with all that logistics and information set aside, thank you so much for listening to me blabber. I would like to introduce another wonderful, wonderful human being and voice to the stage. Madeline, who is our special events and partnerships manager, is going to introduce our folks tonight. So thank her for putting this incredible moment together, and off to you, Madeline.
Thank you, Stephanie, and welcome everyone. My name is Madeline, and I'm Caldera's Special Events and Partnerships Manager. And I'm going to share a little bit about what to expect at tonight's program. So during their residencies at the Arts Center, artists participate in what we call AiR Share, an informal evening where artists can share their work with their peers. We're recreating this experience for you tonight virtually. So each artist will talk about their creative journeys, artistic practice, and work for about 10 minutes, and then we'll open the floor to questions for 5 minutes after each presentation. We are recording this program so we can share it after tonight's event. And we'd love to hear from you. So please feel free to jump into the chat to say hello. Make sure to select everyone and not just panelists if you want to speak with everyone. And you can also use that Q&A function, as Stephanie mentioned, to ask questions during the presentations. We'll save about 5 minutes after each presentation for questions, and then we'll save a few minutes at the end as well. So we're excited to have you all here. Thanks for being here. So first up, we will hear from Paul Susi. Paul is a theater artist, educator, social work professional, and an activist based in Portland, Oregon. He has appeared on stage with Northwest Classical Theater Collaborative, Anon It Moves, Profile Theater, Northwest Children's Theater, Shaking the Tree, Push Leg, The Forgery, Island Stage Left in the San Juans, Washington, Shakespeare Santa Cruz, Teatro Solo, Boom Arts, as well as self-produced devised work. In the rest of his life, Paul leads various programs for Oregon Humanities and MESD Outdoor School. He is a native Portlander and a proud son of immigrants. So passing it on to you, Paul. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much. I'm really grateful to be here. Hello, everybody. My name is Paul Susi. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm going to share my screen now. Let's hope it works. Can I get a nod in from my great, awesome. So yeah, as Madeline just said, I'm do all of those things. And a short way of saying it is that I'm a Minotaur. I believe very strongly in holding the crossroads with all of those intersectional identities. Each of those spheres aren't really possible without a full-blooded agency in all of those other spheres. So I really eschew the idea that I'm just a theater artist, or I'm just a shelter manager, or I'm just a teacher. In fact, none of those things are possible unless I'm also doing theater. So as you might imagine right now, pandemic times makes it really hard to continue to hold that crossroads. So theater. Why would a guy like me be in theater? My parents are Filipino immigrants. It kind of makes no sense. It's dead white guy culture. Through theater, I have learned that identity is performative. I came to theater in high school, and I really resonated with the discipline of performance as a rigorous tool for managing the development of my own emotional maturity and intelligence. I have a temper. I had a temper. I continue to have a temper. And it was through theater that I learned to work collaboratively and creatively with folks who didn't share my background, and the transgression of theater that, you know, I am not a Minotaur, or I'm not a Matador, or I am not a Shakespearean character, but through theater I can be, and I can hold those contradictions. So that was what was really important for me and continues to be important for me to this day. Of course, there are some problems. Professional theater in America is a white supremacist legacy institution. Shakespeare is right up there with the opera and the ballet. I took Shakespearean training when I was in my late teens and early 20s, and it helped me develop poetics, and I have a deep love and passion for Shakespeare, but it also helped to erase my accent, and it solidified the fact that I don't speak Tagalog or Ilocano or any of my parents' dialects, and that was intentional on my parents' part and on the part of white supremacist culture. And then, of course, there's the fact that you can't make a living in the arts in this country, even if you are an attractive, talented, disciplined, white passing, heteronormative performer in this day and age. It's just impossible. So then you branch out. I believe very strongly that mentorship saves lives. I've worked with a lot of organizations that have been referenced already. And the act of engagement with the next generations, the oncoming generations, helps to save my life, frankly. It's really selfish what I do. It reminds me that the world is a place of hope and not of despair, as as maybe it feels like it is on a day-to-day basis. Again, lots of problems. I reject college as a thing that should have any kind of validating authority over my career, my intellectual or leadership-oriented career. All of these things are fruit from a poison tree, and we've all imbibed from the poison tree already. So it just remains to us to do what we can with what we've got to try to ease that or make it better or take away the poison. That's just my rough notes. This pushes into my world as a social services professional. I have opened and helped to create 6 different shelters in the last 5 years for transition projects in downtown Portland. Homeless shelters serving folks experiencing houselessness and homelessness in the Portland area. Each shelter had an average of 100 to 120 beds. Running a homeless shelter is like opening night or tech night for performance. Everything's on the wire. You have a script, but things go off the rails really quickly, and you're working together to try to do something impossible. As an activist, this is a daily practice for me, and it's simply committing to not to settle for less than justice. And I show up by leading a prison pen pal project, by caring for a worm bin in my apartment, by facilitating difficult conversations about race, education, housing, and privilege, and by fighting that instinct to be cynical or myopic in my prejudices. And it's not glorious, and it's not easy, and it's really, really messy. But we're doing okay. So what does the Minotaur have to do with all of this? The Minotaur for me is an emblem, an allegory for this experience of occupying so many intersections at the same time in this time and place. I am deeply passionate about ancient Greek history and Shakespeare, and it has no place in my context, and I'm embracing that. So I'm creating a piece that is, influenced by folks like Mike Daisy, by Spalding Gray, by Wallace Shawn, by a lot of white guys. It's going to be a kind of monologue performance. It was supposed to happen in 2020, but and I got a grant for it from the Regional Arts and Culture Council, but then everything was suspended. So I'm still developing it. I spent my time at Caldera writing and recovering from the inauguration. I actually curtailed my time. I didn't arrive at Caldera until 3 or 4 days after I was scheduled to be there, because I was concerned about the white supremacist, violent Oregonians, greater Oregonians, who were erecting roadblocks across rural Oregon during the wildfires. And I was concerned of a repeat of that for my journey to Caldera from Portland. So I waited a few days before going to Caldera. But I'm really glad that I went. The recovery is so important. The gesture of building a fire, the gesture of walking in an unknown wilderness, that is the artistic journey. And I practiced writing every day, and I practiced brewing a cup of tea and writing for as long as the tea lasts, and then making another cup if I felt like it. I kind of ran through that because I'm conscious of the time. So if folks have any questions or, let me know. That's all I got. I'm gonna stop sharing.
Paul. Does anyone have any questions they'd like to ask? Feel free to drop them in the chat. And I know it takes a minute to process this. So the last time we did this, a lot of the questions came up at the end and everyone answered. So we can hold till then too. Give it a moment. Well, thank you so much, Paul, for sharing your incredible work with us, and we'll come back to you as we go through this program. Thank you. Okay, And next up, we have Subashini Ganesan. And Subashini is an artist, arts administrator, and the creative laureate of Portland. Ganesan choreographs and performs potent and universally relevant expressions drawn from her foundation in Bharatanatyam. In 2010, Ganesan founded New Expressive Works, NEW, a vibrant performing arts venue in Portland that celebrates multicultural independent performing artists who teach, are in residency, and create bold new works. She is a member of the Interstate Firehouse Cultural Center's Community Advisory Committee and Portland Art Museum's Teacher Advisory Council. As Creative Laureate of Portland, Ganesan serves as the official ambassador for its broader creative community. And with that, I will pass it over to Subashini.
Thank you so much, Madeline. It's an honor to be here and to share some of my work and some of my artistic process and some reflections with all of you. I guess we could start with the first slide, Stephanie. Thank you. And so Madeline did say that my foundation is in an art form called Bharatanatyam. And Bharatanatyam is considered to have originated in a form that we don't quite know what it is now, but about 2,000 years ago. And there's a whole story about how it's a form that harkens back to a book called the Natya Shastra, and how it is related to the stories of gods and goddesses. And I'm speaking as if it's a parable because it's partly a parable. The dance form itself has, in terms of technique, it's about rhythmic work with our feet in relationship to percussions. It has to do with storytelling, which is actually super universal. It's about emotive relationship with the audience and with ourselves. So it's really a rich form of communicative dance, and not just narrative storytelling, but abstract as well. But the story that I was told by my teachers, and that many students still get told by their teachers, is that story of tradition and of this relationship to the past. And something that I've been learning more and more in the last 5 or 7 years, I would say, mostly because academic research has only begun recently in the last 12 or 15 years. And it was done in languages from India, and now it's being spoken, it's being done in English as well. So the images that you're seeing right now have been labeled as Devadasis. Deva is the gods, dasis could be servants, but they began, these women whose profession has been to dance, both in the religious spaces as well as in courts, they were flourishing, and they had some really impressive privileges as women in starting. We have records from the 13th, 14th century, flourishing all the way till the late 1800s. And these were women who could be single, who could have multiple partners, who could adopt children, and they were matrilineal families, and women were preferred over boys being born in these families. And basically the steady movement of relationship between colonialism and the Brahmin caste, which is the, if you are familiar with Hinduism, there's a system called the caste system, and Brahmins are considered to be the highest caste. And so the Brahmins' relationship with colonialists created a whole amazing and unfortunate demise of this community of empowered dancers and women. The photos you see right now are women who were professionals anywhere from mid 1800s all the way to the middle of 1940s. In 1947, there was an abolition act to abolish the Devadasis practice, and therefore they lost their privilege to do the art form. But meanwhile, Brahmin women were able to pick up the art form, claimed that they purified it, and that is the form that you see now as Bharatanatyam. So I carry this two-pronged sense of being because I am a Brahmin. I carry this art form in me, and it's an art form that doesn't really represent these dancers. And it's at a time where Devadasis still exist, although the name that is being presented is hereditary dancers rather than Devadasis, because that was created by this relationship between colonists and Brahmins to make them sound like they were lesser than who they were. So if we could go to that first video, and I might just talk over it as you're seeing it. This is sort of at the beginning of, and yeah, play it as you're ready, Stephanie, thank you. So this is me beginning in March, and a lot of my movement was in relationship to the studying that I was doing. And a lot of the movement did come from where I was in terms of my foundation. I've been doing a lot of contemporary work, but it was the beginning of my relationship with the research of what these hereditary dancers were and their power and what was being taken away from them. And maybe we could stop, Stephanie, and go to the second video just for the sake of time. And this was pretty much, I would say, the last few days of being there. I allowed myself not to be on stage anymore, to move where I could, and really accepting relationship with the space. And also part of it was taking away and tearing away from what I was taught was traditions, tearing away from what I was taught is the old way, when it wasn't the old way. It was actually a certain community taking away the art form from those who had the right to do the work. And I was super, yeah, we can go to the third slide. I was really, really honored also to have that entire huge studio to myself. Thanks to COVID. That's a terrible thing to say, but I had that whole studio to myself and built an installation. What you see there, all those different colors, those are different saris. Saris are these six yards or 5.5 yard pieces of cloth that many women wear in India. And there were pieces of paper that I put around it. And I wanted to historically figure out, as much as I could from the books I was reading, a timeline of what happened. So just to show you a video of the writing, you might not be actually able to read it, but just to give you an idea of the work. So there's been some research work that I'm doing in addition to movement. And the hope is that as I learn more, there are a couple more books that I have found since this time away in March that I want to add. And something about seeing the dates and seeing about the campaigns against women and about really what happened, I think is important to be seen and to be witnessed. Thank you. So we can just go back to me, Stephanie. Thank you. I'll end it in just speaking. Thank you. Yeah, so for me, my artistic process has always been, how do I stretch the art form without having to do too much in terms of learning a different art form, but really researching into the history of the dance form that I've learned has given me freedom to both be an activist for those whose voices are still not being heard, and also for having a renewed sense of relationship to my body and to the work ahead, and see what new work can come out of it. I'll stop there.
Thank you, Suba. Are there any questions from the audience? Suba, Aaron mentioned in the chat that they love that you performed on that stage at Caldera. Is that your
Yes.
background of your Zoom right now?
Well, that's the lake, right?
Yeah.
I feel like I worship that lake just like so many of us do when we go there. But the stage was, yes, Aaron, I was super attracted to it. And I think that was something important to start on the stage and kind of let it go as the weeks went along. Although, anytime you want me to come back and do a performance there, I'd be happy to do it. Just saying.
Did you find space kind of throughout the campus? It looks like there were a few different locations. Yeah.
Yep. I was able to dance outside as much as I could, in addition to the studio, of course, which was glorious.
Wonderful. Tasser says, please come back and perform everywhere.
Was that Tesar?
Yeah.
Oh, Tesar, I miss you. Thank you.
Wonderful. Well, again, we'll save time for questions at the end. So we'll come back to everyone. But next up, we have Tavarus. Tavarus Blackmon, also known by the Anglo-Saxon Black Monster, is resisting patriarchy as a devoted father with his partner and 3 children in the City of Trees, Sacramento, California. He earned his MFA as Provost Fellow at the University of California, Davis, and he has been under fellowship at Headland Center for the Arts and the Caldera Art Institute. His practice is interdisciplinary and intermedium. And take it away, Tavarus.
Hello, nice to see you all. Yeah, let me go ahead and share my screen. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, so as a winter spring resident at Caldera this year. Let me see, what can I say? A lot of the time spent there was with my family who traveled with me. We had a harrowing snowstorm overnight trip, but the skies cleared and everything seemed to turn around when we made it on campus. And yeah, I think it was a very fruitful and generative experience. My kids loved it. My 2 oldest children were busy making synth recordings and drawings and watching movies and playing in the snow and going sledding. And I was just like trying to get as much work done as I could, but also spending time with my family pretty much as I wanted, which is nice. And there was not really a requirement on production. In fact, it was totally appropriate for me to just be there with my family, which was great.
Are you a good lady?
that was my daughter recording a synthesizer. And I spent a lot of time recording, walking to the studio from the A-frame, checking out the wonderful sights and mountains, and just like so beautiful up there. And when I did get down to business, it seemed like it was just like meeting after meeting. I had to teach like 3 classes synchronously on Zoom, and had several meetings preparing for an exhibition in San Francisco at Root Division, but making work.
Wanna fly into the sky, take me up so high. I wanna be beside you when I wake up, fill my cup with your morning dew. Here I am, it's me and you. Where we gonna go, where we want to, just to do the things that we want. That's okay, because we are.
I had recently conducted an interview with an artist and curator named Leah King and her partner for Afro and Indigenous Futures at Root Division. So the work kind of really started taking on this Afro and Indigenous futuristic kind of spacey kind of vibe.
I don't know if you love me anymore. Am I walking out the door for the last time? Everywhere I go, I see your face. I look in your eyes and I don't know what I'm seeing. I look in your heart and I don't know what I'm feeling. Here I am once again, saying the things that I feel that I should say.
So I always start every residency with like intentions, right? But you know, it's like the phrase "best laid plans." I always end up doing something that needs to be done, and that's pretty much usually something different than what I intend to do. Yeah, the work is kind of coming out based on, you know, my family relationship, or just, it was really taking on ideas that were just really fresh because I improvised all the audio recordings in the hotel room, and pretty much just whipped it all together.
Do you wanna get real high? Do you wanna fly? Do you think you're dying?
And several intentions. Something happened that I was not intending, which was making work that spoke to my identity, even though there was no me in the work, like representatively. And what I've come to realize is that more or less I'm making work to place myself or my personal history within art history, rather than to make work that is part of a canon already. So that means kind of doing things that I don't always intend, and I learn a lot from that. That's some of the work from the residency, and Yeah, that's work that I've been doing since leaving Oregon. Everything's made on the computer, and I don't know. I just think that type of portability is kind of something I'm leaning more towards. Thanks again to everybody for inviting me down there. I love kind of getting to know part of your community. And this is my walk to the studio. Yeah, it was a wonderful experience. And if anyone is here kind of checking out whether or not they should apply, definitely is a great experience and a wonderful community to be part of. Thank you.
Thank you, Tavarus. That's kind of a good segue into a question here. See, the question is, why is it important for the community to continue to support residencies of this kind? Or, why was this residency important to you and your practice? And I think you all kind of touched on it a little bit, but if anyone wants to say more, feel free to jump in. This question's for all of you.
Yeah, I think, oh, go for it, Suba. I think it's so critical to locate ourselves, as Tavarus was just referencing, so critical to locate ourselves within the larger context and not within the received canon or where we're quote unquote supposed to be. And Caldera is so, it's a physical space that actually manifests that very endeavor. It's both a blank space and a space with a lot of stories that we don't even know, a lot of stories that have been erased, a lot of cultures that have been erased, embedded within a community that's embedded within a state that has all of the things that we all know about. And so I was really moved by how my awareness of myself within those contexts was really rich, because I was in this physical space that helped hold me within that.
Yeah, Paul, that was awesome. I was thinking also about how we all have so many different ways of being. We're whole, but as you were also saying earlier, Paul, they all inform one another, right? And for me, being able to be at Caldera and really allow this artist, researcher, that person who just needed to make and learn and remake be, was precious. And that the space allowed for it. I felt safe, which was huge. And I mean, I literally drove from the house to Caldera, stayed there for 3 odd weeks, packed the car and drove home from Caldera, right? And so and the safety and the kind of freedom that comes out of feeling safe is really important. And that it happens outside of home was really beautiful. So yeah, to be able to reconnect so deeply with that part of me and allow it to really come up with plans. I've been joking that I have at least about 7 projects I'm working on right now. So that's 3 weeks at Caldera, so thank you. And I second, thank you, Jody and Tesar and the whole community there. Thank you.
If I could just add on to that, Caldera is it's like a magical place, and there's not many residencies out there that allow for families to participate in the activities of the artists. But really, for me, the art is being there with my family. Like anything else that happens outside of us just surviving each other, enjoying each other, you know, navigating a new space is just based on the fact that they could be with me. You know, I think for that reason, and the fact that without spaces like this, there's just so much incubation and, you know, personal introspection and growth that wouldn't happen if it wasn't for residencies like this.
Thanks, everyone. So we may have some youth on the Zoom call today, and I'm wondering if any of you want to share any advice or thoughts you might have for young people interested in pursuing creative practice.
I always say stay in school because, I mean, from my perspective, it's given me the tools that I need to be critical, but not only critical, but knowing where to be critical and how to, you know, channel my energies in a way that isn't reactionary, but can be generative for not only myself, but communities that I serve.
I'll jump in. The things that I would say is, in addition to stay in school, thank you, Tavarus, it's, I feel like when we're young people, we're told who our elders are. They're just told that these are our elders. And I just think that it would be helpful if, as a young person, I'd been told by someone, you know, think creatively and really pay attention to, are they just older than you or are they really elders? Because that would have helped me figure out who my mentors could have been, instead of just going with the folks who I thought should be my mentors in order to, quote unquote, make it in the latter steps that I needed to take to become an adult. So I think there's a certain sense of creativity and freedom in learning the difference between who's older in my community and who's actually an elder. And I don't know, pay attention because they're always there, but I feel like they're not the ones who are always seen as the person we should be able to go to and speak freely to.
My advice would be to, if you don't want to stay in school, find your lineage, and find your tribe, find your community. We are all poisoned by this individualism myth that, you know, we're all the solo hero of our own hero narratives, and that's just so toxic. And it is only through community that lineage survives, that culture survives, and that we find ourselves within a better world, a better universe. And so whether that's through, for me, it was theater. For others, it could be music, it could be dance, it could be just being in the world, it could be skateboarding, and it could be whatever. And as long as you have for yourself a code, a moral code, an emotional code, or you work towards building that, it's going to be okay. Short term, it's not as bad as it looks. Long term, everybody dies. So that's where I live.
Thanks all. Any final questions from the audience as we wrap up? Stephanie, do you have anything? I see you. Okay, now.
Nope.
And any last words from our artists that you want to add before we sign off for the night? Okay. Well, we have a recording this, so we'll share this out with everyone after. And oh yeah, does anyone have anything coming up in your creative life that you want to share with the audience? Something we should look out for or see you in next?
Yeah, I'm curating an exhibition at Root Division in the Mission in San Francisco called A Joy Unexpected. It's 14 artists. The light in-person reception is June 12th. It'll be online in a virtual gallery as well. And I have an exhibit coming up at Access Gallery in Sacramento that I'm curating titled Indices of Being, which is in July. And I'll be having a solo exhibition at Access in October.
I'm going to be facilitating a conversation with Oregon Humanities, the Consider This series, which used to be the Think and Drink series that would take place at the Alberta Rose. It has online, it is called Consider This. And we're going to be discussing why housing is so unaffordable in Oregon. My panel is going to be the executive director of the Community Alliance of Tenants, the chair of the Portland Planning and Sustainability Commission, and an economist that works with housing and development throughout the country, actually. So I'm really looking forward to that conversation, and it's free. It's 5 o'clock, June 3rd, and go to OregonHumanities.org for info on that.
I'm finishing out my creative laureate term at the end of June, and as my last official project, I've been allowed to take on a 6-month-long initiative called Supporting Community Healing with Art. And so it's really about amplifying and emphasizing the importance of being able to have art-focused, community-centered, mourning, remembering, grieving, and hopefully healing activations, not just events, but conversations, activations. We started at mid-April, and I've been in a lot of one-on-one conversations, and we're beginning to move into phase 2. There's a grant opportunity that has opened last Friday, and deadline is June 11th. And it's for any event that small, artists, arts collectives, or nonprofit organizations might want to create for their communities using art. So if you went to the Portland City Arts Program site, if you type it, it'll show up. You'll get more about it. So really, those who live in Portland, please feel free to connect with me. If there's something that the city can do to support your project, I'll do everything I can to make that happen.
Awesome. Well, I just want to say thank you so much to our artists for joining us on this call and experimenting with us as we experiment through Zoom presentations. We typically do our open studios in person and on site, and it's very magical, and I hope that we can do it again one day. But thank you all for being so patient and open to experimenting with us and being creative with us. We can't thank you enough, and thank you for being a part of our community. And just because you're not on site anymore doesn't mean we're going to let you go. So we hope that you stay connected, and we support everything that you do, and are hopeful that we'll stay in contact with all of you. So thank you again, everybody, for being on this call tonight and for being with us here. And be sure to sign up for our newsletter and follow us on social media at Caldera Arts on Instagram. You can also find the tags for some of the artists on this call there as well, so you can follow their work there too. So yeah, just thank you so much for being with us, and we appreciate you, and we will see you soon. Take care, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.